Today on Locked On Red Wings, we bring in Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks. We're going to preview Friday's game as well as react to each other's reverse retros, and they look kind of alike.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for WWJ News Radio 950. Scotty is a host over at Locked On Tigers as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today we bring in Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks. We are going to preview that game, and we are going to talk about the reverse retros that were revealed as of recording this today. By the time you're listening to this tomorrow. Before we get to that, before I even ask Jack how he's doing, I got to tell you guys, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Jack, I know you've been on the show a couple times previous to my tenure as host, so it's our first time talking to each other. How you doing, man? How's living life as a Blackhawks fan these days?
Yeah, we finally got it. We didn't start the year 11 games or whatever it was last season without a victory. We picked it up in the third game this season, so baby steps. The vibes are good right now. But yeah, nice to be on the show with you here, Brian. I was getting sick of Nolan, so it was time to get him out of there. Get a fresh.
Did you see his take on Twitter today?
No. Was it those cream colored Red Wings jerseys?
Yeah.
Was that the one that you're talking about?
Yeah. Ratioed to the ground. Oh, dude. And he deserved it. So do your own grave there, brother.
I love Nolan, but that was not the take.
That was tough.
He backpedaled a little bit in the comments.
He set up a Twitter world for a layup on that one. So
yeah,
he's good at that. He's good at that.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks game, Detroit Red Wings game that's happening today. By the time you're listening to this, the two teams are going to be playing. This one's going to be at the United Center. 7 o'clock Central Time, so that'll be 8 o'clock Eastern. But before we get into that and expectations for both teams and what to expect from the game, we got to talk about the reverse retros. They were revealed today. Red Wings Twitter is on fire, for better and for worse. And I said it yesterday, Scotty, that it was going to be a controversial jersey. They went back to the barber poles, but that monkey paw curled. Everyone asked for it, but that monkey paw curled, and they ended up being a red base with black stripes. Now, you and I know, are in agreement that we love this for multiple reasons we can get into. But it's about a 70-30 split. I did a poll on Twitter. That's how I know these statistics are up here. But I know I'm ridiculous. But it was 30% liked it, 70% didn't like it. I knew it'd be controversial. I thought it'd be closer than that. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks, Jack, I don't know if you want to explain what those look like and why this is where the biggest problem with the Red Wings ones come in.
Yeah, they're basically the exact same thing. It was like someone downloaded them on Canva and went and just swiped it across and put Chicago over it. That looked like the effort that Adidas put into these, and Blackhawks fans, rightfully so, are not happy. Anytime, the Blackhawks and the Red Wings look like they're going to be wearing the same thing, you're going to have some angry people about that. So, yeah, I do not like that whatsoever. The barber poles, I'm not a fan of. And out of all the things they could go with, I know the Blackhawks logo is controversial, but they just put Chicago on it. I don't know. I'm not a fan. Most folks are not. And it was disappointing because I thought they had an opportunity to make these really cool. And a lot of other teams, I really liked theirs. And I saw, I wasn't sure who it was that ran it on Twitter. It might have been Jay Fresh on Twitter. Ran a poll. The Blackhawks and the Red Wings were 31st and 32nd, and I wasn't surprised.
Wow. I'm actually shocked by that because I thought there were some other ones that are heavily uninspired. And the Carolina Hurricanes one, I could not tell the difference. The Columbus Blue Jackets I didn't like. There were several that I really liked. I'm apparently in the minority, but I really like the Coyotes one.
Yeah, talking about ones that I thought were good, I thought the Ducks nailed it. I don't think there's too much. That would have been a really hard one to screw up just because everyone knows what they want out of a Anaheim Ducks reverse retro. That's kind of a layup, and they nailed it. I thought theirs was really good. Yeah, there's a couple that that I was a big fan of. But yeah, ours are certainly the epitome of controversy, I would say, the day of.
Well, and so the question becomes, do people not like the Chicago Blackhawks one because it's too similar to the Red Wings one, or are they just sick of this like design? Because it's not the first time we've seen a design like this from the Blackhawks in terms of alternate jerseys.
Yeah, we saw this a few years ago, and I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I thought they had an opportunity to do some really cool stuff with the black jerseys, which we haven't seen the Blackhawks wear in a while. And actually, some of the media folks for the Blackhawks sat down with Jamie Faulkner and Danny Wirtz, some of the executives for the Blackhawks, and they mentioned that they probably will be bringing those black jerseys back at some point. So there was some good jersey news that came out today. It just wasn't these, in my opinion. But yeah, there were some ones I really liked. I really liked the Panthers. I thought those were pretty cool.
Yeah, those are sick.
Agreed.
Yeah, I thought those were sick. I liked the Penguins. I thought was cool.
Yep.
Capitals. The Capitals I thought was cool too.
Oh, the Bruins bringing back the bear.
Yeah, I liked it.
That's sick, man.
The California Golden Sharks. That was good.
So sick. Yeah.
Also
so cool.
Yeah. There were some good ones out there. So I was very disappointed that we weren't.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is comparing. Like, there's so many really cool ones, and like I am still, I controversially am a fan of the Red Wings ones, and I like the full kit. Like, I think that looks a lot better than maybe just the jersey alone.
Yeah,
I like the black stripe on the side there, but I don't know. Like, I very much the undefendable part of it is the similarity to the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, that's like it. I think that's standing on its own. Like, it's a lot better than people think, and I do like it. But I mean, undeniably, it is incredibly similar to the Blackhawks, and that's where my problems start and end with it. But I know that certainly doesn't help an already controversial day.
Well, and so that's where like my thoughts are on it. Like, in a vacuum, I think this looks sick. This looks so sharp as a jersey. I honestly really love it. When you talk about it being as a Red Wings jersey, I do get where people's criticisms are. I mean, people mostly wanted the barbershop jerseys back, but they were hoping for either just straight up, which they weren't going to get, the barbershop jerseys from the 75th anniversary back in 1991, or they were hoping for a reversal of that, where it was a red base with white stripes or cream stripes. I agree. I think that would have looked a lot sharper and stayed true to the Red Wings color scheme. That would have been better. I agree with that. But I still like the red and black because you know why? They swung for the fences on something for once. The last reverse retro they were so afraid to mess with the Red Wings uniform that they went with the blandest idea they possibly could.
And the Red Wings,
it was the worst jersey I've actually ever seen.
No, seriously, yeah.
It was like a practice jersey. It's like a practice jersey you'd find on clearance at like a sporting goods section.
No one really did an entire segment about what we would do with the jersey if we owned it, and I think the winner was turning it into a paper mache volcano. I think that was literally the winner. It's an abomination.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like this because they tried something new. They really swung for the fences on this, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I dig it. I think the full kit looks awesome. But the big thing that definitely makes it lose a lot of points is the fact that the Blackhawks one looks so similar. Like, this already does look like kind of a Blackhawks jersey, just in essence, but the fact that they both have the black stripes going across the red base and the word mark across, I mean, the fact that the Red Wings secondary color is white and the Blackhawks jersey has more white in it than the Red Wings one does is a little like, come on, what are we doing? But in a vacuum, I like it. It's just the fact that they together are like the same jersey that really bugs me.
Yeah, it just felt like they could have been more creative, undoubtedly. Absolutely. In my mind. And I don't think any other, jersey bases of other teams were that similar. And then here comes Chicago and Detroit, obviously not in the same division or conference anymore, but longtime rivals. It wasn't going to sit right with people. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. So before I get to BetOnline, I got a question for you guys about these jerseys. We already kind of went over our favorites. By the way, the Montreal's powder blue, those are sick. As well. But do you have a least favorite one that stood out to you that you just absolutely didn't like? And you can't use your own jersey. You can't use your own teams out of the rest of the league.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'll take. I really don't like Nashville's, and like I don't know what it is.
That's
but
fair.
I thought those were like bad, man, and like. Again, people are going to look at this and be like, oh, you're one to talk, look at yours, like whatever, like fine. But like, I mean, for real, like I thought that was, I don't know, the logo is like kind of weird. And it's just literally like neon yellow and that's it, which is like the logo on the center. I don't know. I didn't think there was very much thought put into those ones particularly. Yeah,
there was a couple that I didn't like. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not a fan of the Oilers like alternate logo. It just doesn't look right to me. So I didn't like the Oilers. The Stars was just very bland and like basically just the jerseys they wore like 4 or 5 years ago. And then I also thought, I always just think this color scheme for Minnesota, it just makes them look like Subway. I just think of Subway every time I see them. So I just don't love that color scheme for them.
This was a little bit more controversial, but I didn't like Tampa Bay's at all. Greg Wyshynski had it number 32 on his list, and I know some people love it because it's ugly. Like it's one of those jerseys that it's so ugly it's cool, but to me it's just ugly. So I didn't like that. That was my least favorite.
Fair play, yeah.
And then for Red Wings fans, a little bit of information. The Red Wings do confirm that this is going to be worn for 10 games this season as opposed to 2. So that kind of gives you a little insight.
Minimum is 2, and that's what we wore for the first ones. So
I think the Red Wings organization likes this one.
Yeah, people like them more than those, at least.
But let's get into the game preview. But before we get to that, I got to tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are joined by Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks. We're going to preview this game that's happening tonight at the United Center. Jack, your Blackhawks team has gone full tank mode. There's absolutely no denying it, and I know you won't. I mean, they traded away Alex DeBrincat, and that, unfortunately, I don't think enough, but we don't have to get into all of the DeBrincat stuff. What I want to ask you out of the gate here is, because the season's still early and your Blackhawks are 1-2, their one win coming against the San Jose Sharks, and as you put it in the pre-show, kicking them while they're down. What is the expectation of the 1-2 Chicago Blackhawks this season for you?
For me, I would say they're not high. The expectations are not high, given looking at this roster. I think they're going to have a really hard time scoring goals throughout the course of the season. There's just not a whole lot of gifted playmakers up and down the lineup. It's kind of the Patrick Kane show. We did see some nice depth scoring in that game against San Jose, though, which was nice. We didn't see that in the first 2 games coming against Colorado and Vegas. So my expectations, or I guess what I'm hoping to see out of this Blackhawks team, is under Luke Richardson, his first year as the new head coach, I just really want to see a good fight out of this Blackhawks team, good energy from start to finish. And I feel like Luke Richardson's really done a good job of coming in and bringing a positive message and getting the most out of these guys so far. Like even in the season opener against Colorado, it was clear. I mean, the Blackhawks didn't have the skill to hang with that team. But one thing that really impressed me was they were down multiple goals in the third period, outshot by a ton. They're getting their rear ends handed to them, and they came out in that third period and they were still fighting until the end, and they got a goal to make things a little bit interesting late. And those are kind of the strides that we want to see. We don't expect them to beat the Colorado Avalanche. I don't think anyone had the Hawks penciled in to win that game, but if they can at least show you some signs and show you some flashes of the ability to hang in from start to finish, and then more importantly, against teams like San Jose or other teams who are probably going to be in that bottom third of the league, I think that's more so where we're going to learn about the Chicago Blackhawks team, truly where they're going to be at the end of the year. A lot of folks think they're going to be right there in the Connor Bedard watch for the #1 overall pick. I expect them to be in there, but personally, I don't think the Blackhawks are going to be the worst team in the entire league. And maybe in 3 months, you guys can have a good old laugh at your boy here when the Blackhawks have like 30 points in February. But I personally don't think they're going to be the worst team in the league. I think they do still have some skill, and they have some young players who are stepping onto the scene that are already making a big impact. So I'm hopeful and, in kind of a bubble. Don't have big expectations, but at the same time, I think that's fair and also a decent way to go into this. It's almost like a filler year for the Blackhawks. You mentioned the Alex DeBrincat trade and everything that they did in the offseason. It's really clear that Kyle Davidson gets that this is going to be a long-term process, and there's absolutely no rush. And there's even some guys down in their minor league team right now that could probably be up with the Blackhawks, but they want to make sure they're extra seasoned down there in Rockford so that when they do get called up, they can make an impact, not just kind of be guys out there. So, yeah, it's just kind of a fill-in season for the Blackhawks, but I'm looking to see this team fight hard and at least make things competitive. And, it feels like last season was so miserable that anything's going to be better than that. And through the first 3 games, I haven't been as miserable as I thought I was going to be. So
as a team that is coming out of a rebuild, that is the bar. That is the bar. We're with you on that.
That's really all you can ask for is that culture shift, right? Like you can instill. That's like a thing that I've long believed is like you can instill Brian just completely went out of focus there. You're good now.
I didn't do anything. I just was sitting here.
You can instill a winning culture and a winning mindset without winning. Like it's hard, but like it's possible. And so I think again, like as Brian says, as not only a team and a franchise, but a city that is just rebuild after rebuild after rebuild after rebuild all at the same time. Like that's definitely something that can be done. And look, if you instill that culture and then add a little Connor Bedard onto that, like that's a pretty good future in my books. I don't know.
So here's the next big question for you, man. And it's gonna be a tough one, and it's one that's gonna pull your heartstrings and one that you're gonna have to deal with all year long. Both Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews are in the last year of their contracts, entering a full-scale rebuild. 33 for Kane, 34 for Toews. Do you see them re-upping with the Blackhawks to finish their career? Both of them are 3-time Stanley Cup champions, so they have nothing left to prove. Or especially in Patrick Kane's case, who's still performing well at his age, do you think he is a trade deadline piece to acquire more assets?
Yeah, it's the question that everyone seems to be asking, and it's not going to end anytime soon, I'll tell you that. And there really hasn't been anything newsworthy breaking on this front for like 3 or 4 months now. But, given the talent that Patrick Kane is and everything that he and Jonathan Toews have accomplished for the Blackhawks, it makes sense that people are curious as to their futures. But they haven't said much. They're really just, doing the old hockey player special, just saying they're happy to be here and just thinking about this season, want to get back on the ice, let that stuff take care of itself when the time comes. So these are all, just hypotheticals still. But if I had to guess, man, like I would assume that they're both gone by the deadline. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like it's such a complex situation too, given that they both have no movement clauses. They have $10.5 million on the book for this season. The Blackhawks are going to have to retain that and retain at least half and maybe even find a third team to get involved to make everything work financially. So there's a lot that goes into just trading those guys. But I think what it comes down to for me, and again, I'm just guessing here. It's not like I'm asking Patrick Kane and getting the answer from him, but I would have to believe that the fire that burns inside them to go and win again, or at least pursue that opportunity to go and win again, given that they really haven't come close in 7 years now. And
it's been that long already.
I know you guys are probably got a big old grin on your face. But it's just abundantly clear what Kyle Davidson has instilled here as the general manager I mentioned earlier. It's going to be a long haul here. It's going to be a while. And that's just, you mentioned 34, 33 years old for those two guys. It doesn't fit. I mean, we traded a 25-year-old Alex DeBrincat. Those two are probably not going to fit in the Blackhawks rebuild ideally, but we've also heard from the Blackhawks organization that they're not going to ask Kane or Toews to waive their no movement clauses. It's probably going to have to come from them unless, the clock starts ticking and you got to start making a decision there. But I just feel like, they'd want that opportunity to go and win somewhere else. And also from the Blackhawks organization's perspective, like you could get a great return for Patrick Kane, a guy who has showed no signs of slowing down. Like, even though another team might have to take on $5.25 million, you're still looking at what, 2 first-round picks potentially, and maybe more, maybe a pick and a prospect or something along those lines. And Taves is a little more confusing as to what his return could be, because there's just so much up in the air about, his health and what kind of player he's even going to look like this year. Thus far, he's looked really sharp and the best I've seen him in quite a while, but, still very early. But it just feels like the Blackhawks would want to get something for those guys. And as cool as it would be to have them be Blackhawks for life, I would love that. It just feels like that's going to be the harder route. And also it's kind of a gamble for the Blackhawks too, to keep them around and keep paying them money. So as much as it pains me, my heart's telling me that it seems more likely than not that both guys are going to be gone at the deadline. But again, anything could happen. We really haven't heard anything at all from Kane or Taves themselves. So that's probably going to be the case until we get till January or February and these conversations really, really start ramping up.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really tough because, and it's just, when I think Chicago Blackhawks, I think of Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. They were the faces, they were the identity of the Chicago Blackhawks. So the thought that they could be traded away is the team's losing its identity. Also a captain and an alternate captain at that. I mean, literally losing its identity of its championship teams and incredibly valuable veteran presences. But looking at where the rebuild's at and what value those guys have, I mean, I think it makes logical sense, even if the heart, is saying something else. We're gonna transition here though and start talking about the preview when we come back, because we have to talk about the game, man. We got games here and now that are going to be happening, and we got to figure out who's going to be the winner, because as we all know, whoever wins this argument wins the game in real life. That's how that works. So that's coming up next on Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks is joining us. And so, the Red Wings are playing the Chicago Blackhawks for the first time of 2 times this year, rather. This is a rivalry that goes back nearly a century now, as old as the league is, because these two teams are part of the original 6. And, it might not be as fervent as it once was when they were both in the Western Conference in the same division. But when they go at it, it's still a heated contest. And, obviously, based on where these teams are at in their rebuilds, Blackhawks going into one and the Red Wings trying to start to climb out of one would think that the Blackhawks or the Red Wings would win this game, and hopefully handily. And Scotty and I talk about that. Like, good teams beat good teams and good teams beat bad teams really, really well. And so it's kind of a litmus test for the Red Wings in the sense that, will they put out a huge performance against the Chicago Blackhawks team, which admittedly doesn't have a whole lot, at least from what I can tell. But if the Blackhawks, Jack, were to put up a fight, who are you looking for in this game to provide that fight and provide that spark?
Yeah, a big part of the Blackhawks' success offensively thus far, and a big part of the victory they had on Saturday night against San Jose was the Jonathan Toews line, the second line of Tyler Johnson, and Taylor Radish. All 3 of those guys, I really feel like, have something to prove this year for all different reasons. Tyler Johnson's just coming off neck surgery. He's actually the second player after Jack Eichel to undergo that disc surgery that was so controversial for the Buffalo Sabres. The Blackhawks gave Tyler Johnson the 2 thumbs up and told him, go get it. It was really funny how those 2 situations were handled so differently. But Taves too. Yeah, funny. In Taves, we talked early about how he has a lot to prove, just to kind of show that he's still got it and still capable of, being the dominant force that he once was. Those 3 guys have looked really sharp together so far this year. I've been really impressed with what I've seen. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Blackhawks, if they're in this game tonight, I guess, since that's when the listeners are going to be hearing this, if the Blackhawks are in this game, it's probably due to the second line, I think, putting up some offense. I'd like to see Patrick Kane's line, that top line of Andreas Athanasiou, and Max Domi get something.
Oh, my God.
Hey, baby.
I got to bet him anytime goal scorer. It makes too much sense.
It does.
Top line
AA, the revenge game.
$1 million. Look at him securing the bag. That's just crazy to me.
I was excited for Athanasiou to come on, and he's been given a massive opportunity here. I mean, on the same line as Patrick Kane, a really good opportunity for him to kind of, get his stuff back together after a tough year with the Kings last season where he battled injury and was just never in the lineup consistently. He just, man, I don't know what it is about him. And I feel like this is a struggle I'm going to have throughout the entire year because this is what everyone says about him, but he gets those chances. He'll get his look. It's just the finished product. It just feels like a struggle. And he also doesn't feel like a very good playmaker. Like he feels like a shoot first guy a lot and doesn't really do much to like benefit his line mates.
Have you watched
I would really like to see more of him in that line tomorrow. Does that sound familiar, boys?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if you've watched closely to his defense yet.
Oh no, we haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm sure throughout the year.
You might not want to.
Yeah.
So
let's on our fourth line, by the way. So
Dominic Kubalik's first line right now.
I saw
Kubalik's getting some first line minutes. So yeah, true.
We are in love with Dominic Kubalik. We are in love with him. He just that shot, man. How can you not love it? Every time he gets a ripper, it's so good. And like the Red Wings, and playing on a line with Raymond and Larkin, who are two good playmakers, especially Raymond, where they can just feed him pucks. I mean, he's playing point on the power play. His big problem right now is handling the passes. But when that shot comes to him and he unleashes that cannon, it's like money, dude. When he scored that first goal in the preseason from the point, I was like, oh my.
Yeah. There aren't many guys in the league that can shoot the puck like Dominic Kubalik can. And dude, it's so frustrating because I feel like Detroit, like that's a really good situation or opportunity for Dominic Kubalik to be in a spot where he's there to score goals and to shoot the puck. And like for the Blackhawks too, I always screamed they needed to use Dominic Kubalik for this one time around the power play, but that was always Patrick Kane's spot on the man advantage. So like Kubalik would tend to be on the second power play unit and would get like 30 seconds there. And it just never worked out, but you got to play him in those situations, man. He's a gifted goal scorer. That's his bread and butter. It's funny though. You said he has some trouble handling passes. If I had a nickel for every time last year that Dominic Kubalik either flubbed a pass or flubbed a shot, I wouldn't be doing this podcast anymore. I'd be living somewhere down south on a beach. I mean, you're going to see a lot of Dominic Kubalik flubbing it, but you got to just understand that's what's going to happen. He's going to reward you with some beauties, though, if you play him in those prime opportunities. So glad to hear that at least the Red Wings are, utilizing Dominic Kubalik to his strengths. He does have flaws, but his strengths are very obvious and very
Put him on first power play every time. I don't care. Just put him out there. Feed him pucks.
Got to.
Him and Perron, man.
They line up like Kubalik lines up with exactly what we needed. We had so many frustrating episodes last year where we were like, nobody shot the puck. Like we'd have opportunities, we'd have looks, like we'd be on the power play. Our special teams was terrible last year, obviously, and like nobody will shoot. Like we're just screaming at the TV, like somebody shoot the puck, and now we have this dude.
Kubalik comes in and goes,
he might not score for 3 games straight, but he's leading the team in shots every single night, and it is beautiful.
And it's funny.
He is really a godsend. Like he is exactly what this team needed. Somebody to just be like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna rip, and just one of these are gonna eventually find the back of the net, and that's what he does, man. I love it.
And what's funny is I remember when the Red Wings picked him up and Jay Fresh put out his stat card out on Twitter, and it was like I don't know how he does it, but he's such a gifted goal scorer. He's like nothing else, but man, does he score! He was so enamored with the idea that he scores as much as he does, given the fact that he doesn't provide anything else. I don't mean that as a slight, but like you said, Jack, he has one thing that he's very good at, and it's really exciting. But he did have a goal the other night against the Devils, Scotty. Yeah. That was a nice little, hands play. He got the feed from Lucas Raymond, went forehand and backhand right over Vanecek's shoulder because Vanecek is not a very good goaltender.
Really nice pass too.
Yeah,
he set up Perron really nice.
After he flubbed it the first time, he had to recover it. Yeah.
He flubbed it, recovered, and then had a dime of a pass right into the slot. Yeah, it was a beauty.
Let's talk about, because you also have a former Detroit Red Wing in your goaltending in Peter Mrazek, and you also have Stalick as well. And so the question is which goalie you think's going in this game? Because my heart wants it to be Mrazek, but I've got a gut feeling, considering that Mrazek's played 2 games, you're probably going to go with Stalick for this game.
I honestly think it's going to be Mrazek in the home opener. Both goalies, though, I did not expect the Blackhawks goaltending position to be like the strong point of the team right now coming into the year, but both Mrazek and Stalock, like Stalock has only 1 game so far, but in the preseason, he looked really sharp too. But I personally think it's going to be Peter Mrazek, and man, he's looked really good in that game against San Jose. Wasn't tested as often as he was against Colorado, but stood his net really well and made all the saves that he needed to. The 2 goals that he allowed really were just defensive errors by the Blackhawks, and there was nothing he could do about it. And in that season opener against Colorado, the Blackhawks could have been down 8-0. Like every time Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon were on the ice, they literally had no answers. It was rough, but Peter Mrazek, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the guy for the effort that he gave in that game just to keep it close. So, yeah, he's actually looked really good, and that's kind of one thing that some folks have worried about the Blackhawks tank is, well, what if Peter Mrazek kind of has a bounce-back year and he's stealing some games here for the Blackhawks? And, you know, it's a small sample size. He's only got 2 starts thus far, but he's looked really darn good. So I think he's going to be in there tomorrow night for the home opener.
Wait till the cold stretch. Because he'll go on a heater, man. He will. Like He'll be on his head for a while, and you'll be like, this dude might be the goaltender of the future in his mid-20s. And then,
where's that extension?
Just wait for it. But that's cool to hear, though, for real. That's cool that I'm glad that he keeps finding work. Like for as controversial, I guess I'll say, as his time was here, and just about like everybody had a different opinion on him. Yeah, I'm glad that he's still finding work and finding playing time. And it'd be really cool if like home opener, Chicago, like going again. I don't know, that'd be cool.
His biggest problem, it's been several years since he was with the Detroit Red Wings, but his biggest problem when he was with Detroit is overplaying pucks. Like he would get himself out of position by just lateraling too far, coming too far out of the net and leaving the other side wide open. I remember that being the biggest issue with him all the time and why he just could never find any consistency. But I mean, he's been with Carolina, he's been with Philadelphia, he's been with Toronto since. So now Chicago, obviously. So, I mean, he could be a different player, but I just know, I mean, there's a reason why he's bouncing around the league, and it's probably because he still has those same flaws.
Yeah, he's really aggressive around the net too. Yes. Both Blackhawks goaltenders are. It's like it's not great for the heart how much they love to skate out of the net to go and play the puck. But who are we going to see for Detroit tonight? And I also wanted to ask about this goaltender position because they go out and they get Ville Husso along, obviously separate moves, but they give Husso and David Perron from the St. Louis Blues here. What's kind of the feel about the Detroit Red Wings in that? Like, I'm kind of an outsider here, but from afar, Alex Nedeljkovic didn't look to be it last year. What are just kind of the thoughts on the Red Wings goaltender situation?
Well, Scotty, I want you to answer this, but first I want to point out that the St. Louis Blues, the playoff team St. Louis Blues, decided the best thing for their organization was to let David Perron and Ville Husso walk and bring in 38-year-old Thomas Greiss and re-up Nick Leddy. I don't know what the mindset behind that was, because you're trying to get better and contend, and you take the leftovers from the Red Wings. So I thought that was really funny. Sorry, Scotty. I just had to point that out. Go ahead, buddy.
No, you're fine, man. Yeah, no, I mean, Husso's looked really good to start off the year. He was the season opener, was what they went Ville. So like that's I think somewhat telling. But Ned, you know, I think from an outsider perspective, I would completely understand like looking at Ned and being like, yeah, like, you know, that probably wasn't like the best thing in the world, just because of how many, especially in the second half of last season, it seemed like we were giving up 5+ a night. But I think that a large majority of that had to do with the fact that that was like one of the worst defensive units I've ever laid my eyes on. Like it was Moritz Seider, and then like that was it. I mean, it was an absolute train wreck at the blue line the entire season. And it just came all collapsing and like caught up with us. We were running away from our problems for the first half of the year. And we were like, oh, like, look at us. We're kind of like hanging around a little bit. And then they caught up to us and reality hit us in the face. We're like, all right, this blue line is just abysmal. And so I think this year is a really big like prove it year for Ned in the sense that it still does not appear to be like the best defense that we've ever seen, but it's certainly an improvement over last year just because it's pretty much impossible to not be. So I think a lot of people are really interested in the production that he's going to get. And I think as it stands right now, I think the game plan is probably close to a 50-50 split still. Like I still think, I mean, that's a dude that was in, Calder, outside of Calder conversations when he was with Carolina. So I think that there's a lot of there's still a lot of expectations there, and I think even if it's more of a 55-45 maybe split, but I think that most people are expecting, at least early on until proven otherwise, kind of a 50-50-ish split between the two of them. So we'll see. He still lets in some cheapies, but as a whole, I mean, the other night, literally the definition of like a Ned game. Like he let in a really bad cheap goal, but then his whole body of work was actually pretty decent. So we'll see going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty much a 50-50 split until they figure out which one's the better goaltender. So I think probably Nedeljkovic starts this game because Ville Husso started in the OT loss to the Kings. And yeah, he didn't look great. Like we're not gonna sit here and say that Nedeljkovic was, take all the responsibility off his shoulders. It's a team game, right? So it's a team effort. And there were stretches last year where he looked rough. And that was apparent. But you also got to keep in mind, like Scotty was saying, they give up a lot of shots every night. And while you were talking, Scotty, I looked it up. And last season, they were 5th in the league in shots against per game at 33.7. So on average, they gave up over 30 shots every single game. That's a tough situation for a goaltender to be in and still perform well, especially behind, like Scotty said, just Moritz Seider. So this year, we're definitely expecting more out of Nedeljkovic, and we're expecting it to be a competitive tandem. And I mean, we think Scotty and I are in agreement that it's going to be an incredible tandem because those are two guys who both want to earn a payday, guys who want to be the starting goaltender. So we think they're going to push each other. And if not, then hey, you roll with whatever one's better. And if neither of them work out, you know what? You got a 15th overall pick in Sebastian Cossa sitting down there in the they sent him down to the ECHL today, but AHL, ECHL, because they've been moving him back and forth every day for like the last week. I don't know what's going on with him. I think they're just trying to get him as many games as possible.
He's still years away, though.
He's still years away, though, which is why we have these guys here in the meantime. So I'm not super concerned about Nedeljkovic yet, but I do think that them acquiring Ville Husso through trade does signal that Steve Yzerman maybe thinks that they might have to have a backup plan if Nedeljkovic doesn't play well.
I also wanted to ask you guys, given that the Red Wings have gotten off to this 2-0-1 start, and you had mentioned earlier, this is kind of a different feel to this year for the first time in a while, and you're really hoping to kind of see some progress, some true progress finally be made. What have you seen that you've liked out of this Red Wings team so far? What's kind of helped lead you guys to your first 2 victories, and what do you kind of think they need to do in order to come out of the United Center with another win tomorrow or tonight? Sorry.
I mean, like I said, like the defense is still a work in progress pretty clearly. And I think that's still where a lot of the long-term moves need to be made and where there's still a lot of question marks surrounding like the long-term status of like as we exit this rebuild, hopefully. I think that's where a lot of people kind of are circling sheets around the blue line. But it's very noticeable that this forward core is the best we've had in years. I mean, it's not even particularly close. This is the best forward group we've had in a very long time. And I think, Bert getting hurt obviously sucks, like right at the beginning of the season, whatever, 1-2 games in, like going down, he's out 4 to 6. So that gives Zadina some more playing time, the ever so controversial, so that'll certainly be something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, it's so apparent that when you raise the bar of like expectations for, hey, we're going to compare ourselves to like other good hockey teams versus like, oh, we're going to compare us to the Detroit Red Wings from like last season or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's just such a big difference between those two things. And I think we're finally starting to bring in, like, Kopp has been great defensively, has a couple of nice assists. And then like Perron has just been unbelievable on both sides of the puck as well. Like we already went on and talked about Kubalik and everything. Like that the additions that they have made to the forward core, it's actually like somewhat deep, and it's not just filled with bodies. Like, it's actually, there's dudes in Grand Rapids right now that some people want to be in the NHL, and that's not a conversation we've had in a very long time. So I think that's like the very clear. We had the most, our first period of the season was the most shots the Red Wings have had in a season in like a decade. Like, it was a 25 shot first period to start off the year. Like, it's very apparent that this offense is like actually a competent, legitimate NHL offense, and is not just, okay, well, we're better than last year's, terrible Red Wings team. Like, this is an actual legitimate offense. And yeah, I think the question marks still just lie on defense.
No, absolutely, man. It's but even like the defensive acquisitions that the Red Wings have made have had a positive impact. I mean, Ben Sherratt was a big question mark because, analytically wise, he's not that impressive. But I mean, honestly, the intangibles that he's brought, and people like to throw that word around, but his physicality, his ability to draw penalties, and I know that's a give and take. I know there's going to be times where he takes stupid penalties, and I'm going to want to bash my head against the wall. But, I mean, he's gone out there, and he's punished the opponent. And Oli Mata, even though he was brought in to be a defensive defenseman, has provided 4 points in 3 games for the Detroit Red Wings, one of which being an empty net goal. But, regardless, that's 4 points in 3 games out of a guy who you thought would be a defensive safety net for Phil Peronic on the second pair, and he's been the best out of the 2 of them. So, I mean, when you're looking at what the Red Wings need to do to steal a win, I mean, you're going to need guys like Filip Zadina and Dominik Kubalik to definitely step up to play top 6 roles on this team. You want your Redwood line of Soderblom, who's been fantastic, by the way, Sundqvist and Rasmussen to keep being a solid line 3. But, I mean, offensively, they don't really have to do much more than they already did. I mean, in an overtime loss without 2 of their best forwards against a playoff caliber team, they scored 4 goals. It's just
OT, yeah,
in OT. So I think their offense has good depth. It's just really going to come down to, can they play a good enough defensive game to really lock it down? Because you can't go into any arena, regardless of where the team's at in the rebuild, and discount them, because it's hockey. I mean, any given night, right? That this sport, more so than any sport, I feel like when you say any given night, you mean any given night.
It's the beautiful thing about hockey.
And very frustrating too. when you're on the other side, like when the Arizona Coyotes pump you for like 11 goals when they're the worst team in the league, like last year. So that was fun.
Oh man.
But we got to wrap it up here. Jack, do you have any final thoughts, man? You want to throw out there where people can find you, stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I also wanted to say, you guys want to throw out a quick prediction before we get out of here? Prediction.
I would love nothing more than that, Jack. Let me tell you, I would love nothing more than to throw out a prediction. Give me. I want to see a throttle. That's what, and like, I'm gonna look ridiculous on Monday's show when we lose 2-1. But like, give me like and if we do lose 2-1, I'm taking credit. Give me a like, I don't know. Give me a 4-2. Give me a 4-2 with an empty netter. Win for the Red Wings. Sorry.
I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go bigger than that. I'm going to say it's a got to take the hat off for this. That's how big of a take
we just
is.
got really serious. We got
Bring it out
right now.
You know what? Is the shirt coming off too? Is that how serious?
No. For love of everything, please. No, family show.
I'll say 6-2. I think that they pump them.
Love it.
Hey,
sorry, Jack.
They did that early last season. Lucas Raymond had a hat trick early on, I recall.
My first episode, by the way, as host.
That was Brian's first episode. Was the Raymond hat trick game? Yeah,
which is the anniversary is coming up actually real quickly here.
Wow! Well, congratulations early to your one year anniversary.
Yeah, Brian, nice, dude.
That's not what the point of that was. Keep going.
I think this has the potential to be an offensive game as well, which probably doesn't favor the Blackhawks. I'm going to be maybe a Debbie Downer. I'm going 5-3 Detroit. I'd love to see the Blackhawks come away with a win, but at the same time, do I want them to win? I don't know. I'm going to be conflicted throughout the way. I'm going 5-3 Detroit. Blackhawks are going to drop their home opener. It's okay, though. Hindsight, it's good to lose, Blackhawks fans. Don't get mad at me.
Hey, yeah. When in July, when Bedard's name has a Blackhawks logo next to it, it'll all be worth it, baby.
When I'm in Nashville having a great old time, it'll all be worth it for the NHL draft, baby.
Let's just remember, though, that since all 3 of us picked Detroit Red Wings to win, that means the Chicago Blackhawks, of course, are going to win this game because that's how these things tend to work.
Correct.
It's I don't know about win-win, Jack, but it's something. Maybe for you, either your prediction's right or your team wins.
That's how we like it.
Yeah. So thanks for doing the crossover. You reached out to us, so really we should be thanking you for inviting us to do the crossover. We appreciate it. It was very nice talking to you for the first time.
As always.
It was fun. It was
How about them Cubbies?
Fun.
No,
that's a whole nother 45.
Thanks for Javi Baez, by the way, man. He's been great.
Why don't Jack?
Don't you love watching Javi Baez swing at sliders in the dirt all year long? It'll never change.
He led the league in errors and swung at the most sliders in all of baseball.
He'll do that. He will do that.
Oh no, yeah, he will. Yeah, for 4 more years.
Locked On Tigers.
that is me. Yes.
Bring Jack on. You guys can talk Cubbies.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we'll bring on Locked On Blackhawks host Jack Bushman to Locked On Tigers. I love it.
Yeah, but they love it when we do that cross promotion, man. That's like the kind of cross promotion. Hockey, Chicago, Detroit.
Those Tigers
baseball.
and Blackhawks fans out there, they're going to be super pumped. Yeah.
All 6 of them.
Both those teams are so interesting right now.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if you were a fan of both those teams right now?
Somebody in one of our comment sections is going to be like, that's me. We're like, nice. Nice.
Anyways, we have got to put an end to this. So we'll be back on Monday. We'll be recapping this game as well as the Sunday game against Anaheim. Jack will be recapping this game and whatever games the Chicago Blackhawks play this weekend. If they play, do they play?
Play on Sunday, 1:00 against Seattle.
There you go. He'll be recapping those games for you guys over at
Locked On Blackhawks. With a dub.
You could.
I hope.
Yeah, you could.
Kind of. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I don't know if I want to win or not. That's the weird part about this entire season.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We've been there. That was our whole mentality last season. It's like they lost. That sucks. But also, we spin the tankathon wheel. So
that thing never treated you guys right, though. That old wheel never treated you guys right.
We would always end every episode on the wheel, and we would spin it until we got number 1 overall. And one time it took 50 spins.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so same time, same place. It's your guys' teams, whichever
every day.
Every day.